Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez. This past week on our daily talk show, Barnstable This Morning, we offered up a mixed bag of topics ranging from the prospect of a new downtown police substation to NSTAR's plans to spray herbicides around power line rights-of-way. We'll show you some of those discussions later in the show, but we kick off this week's BTM highlights with Superintendent of Schools Dr. Patricia Grenier, who recently announced that she'll be retiring as of September 1st, 2011. On Monday, November 15th, Patty joined us to talk about her decision.
The only way I guess I could describe how I came to the decision was everybody has their own standard of what excellent looks like in their own work. And my standard for the superintendency is that it is a job that requires you to be accessible and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yep.
And I find myself in the last few months wishing that it was not 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Wishing that when I left on a Friday afternoon, I could really, in my own head, think I don't have to pay attention to work until Monday morning. And I think when you get to that point, then it's time for you to leave.
Are there any other factors over the course of the past few years that have led you to this decision? I mean, of course, the fiscal year 09 there, everybody knows and everybody watched as you went through a very, very challenging budget process. I can't imagine that that was a mentally easy thing for you to negotiate. Honestly,
when I look back at 09, and I remember literally sitting at my desk thinking, I can't do this.
Wow.
Thinking now that when I look back on my career, I will say that that was one of the high points of my career in the sense that together we did it. So in reflection, 09 did not push me over the edge. I will tell you that I did go a week ago to a conference, the school committee superintendent conference, annual conference, and Friday was called Fiscal Friday. And on Friday, they talked about the fact that this upcoming year, FY12, that the state is going to be in a very precarious situation because they have spent the federal monies that were given to them as appropriately as they should have. Yep. And they have drained their rainy day account. It's almost like the state is going to be where the state is going to be next year where Barnstable was 2 years ago. And I thought to myself, are you really saying we have to look again to possibly cutting more? To keep asking our staff to do more with less is hard to do. So that was an influence for me, for sure.
Over the past several months, we've talked with a number of our guests about the possibility of improving public safety in downtown Hyannis by putting a police substation back on Main Street. But on Tuesday, November 16th, Police Chief Paul McDonald told us in no uncertain terms that the possibility will become a reality by next spring.
The police department is committed. We are going to have a Hyannis station on Main Street. If we can't find a building, then we'll purchase a trailer, but we are definitely going to have a presence on Main Street this coming summer, hopefully by April 1st. We've been looking for the last several months out of the generosity of the town. We've been offered some space free at the Hyannis Public Library. A business leader in the community has offered some space off of North Street. But we are looking for a location that's specifically right on Main Street, and we're looking for some type of funding source. During the fall, a major drug case got adjudicated, and with that finding, the subject pled out to 12 to 15 years in state prison, and with that, there was a sizable forfeiture. The forfeiture money value was almost $376,000.
And Chief, this is Jimmy Smith that we're talking about, yes?
This is Jimmy Smith, a.k.a. Donnie Smith, yes.
And as people may remember, and probably do remember, that was one of the largest, if not the largest, drug bust in the history of your department, right?
Correct. We seized over $500,000 in money and property, and another over $500,000 in cocaine and heroin.
And I think that it's a great thing that the money that was forfeited by Mr. Smith ends up going to really serve the public's interest with this Main Street substation. It's a great way to spend the money, in my opinion.
Right. Well, we don't get all the money, but we did get a substantial amount of money, and we have decided to dedicate a portion of that money to fund the Hyannis station, which will be on Main Street, in which we are currently now looking for a location. And we do have some strict requirements. We do want it right on Main Street in a very highly visible location, somewhere in the area between Main and Ocean and Main and C Street.
In front of the Thursday, November 18th Town Council meeting, Council President Fred Chirigotis joined us on BTM to talk about some of that night's agenda items. One item was a proposed resolution to voice opposition to NSTAR's plan to control with herbicides the vegetation along power line rights-of-way. This has been a hot-button issue in communities across the Cape for over a year now, and Fred weighed in with his opinions on the matter and the resolution.
I will tell you that I rarely will make a decision until we have the debate.
Okay.
I can tell you that I lean in favor of supporting the resolution for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
Basically, what has happened is NSTAR proposes to spray herbicides in its right-of-way areas all along the Cape. And unfortunately, the herbicides which are being sprayed, and I understand, I've talked to many people who are involved in horticulture and in landscaping and are actually professionals, and they talk about spot usage and, the ability to control the use by professionals.
Yeah.
But the danger is that we're using things that have not been tested for their effects on humans once they get into the water system.
Like so many other chemicals, yeah, exactly.
So we really need to understand what we're using, how we're using, where we're using it, quantity, quality. So until we have answers, I would suggest that this resolution is appropriate. Don't worry, we'll use it and we'll figure it out later because the risks are too great.
Ultimately, the entire council chose to adopt the resolution against NSTAR's herbicide plan by a vote of 11-0 with 2 abstentions. Prime golf season is in its waning days here on Cape Cod. So on Friday, November 19th, it was time for us at BTM to say a temporary goodbye to our good friend, Golf Operations Director Mike Gelfie. In our final golf segment of the season, Mike gave us some good advice on how to prepare for some chilly rounds of winter golf, which you'll be able to play at the Hyannis course because the old Barnstable Fairgrounds course is closing for the winter. Here, Mike explains why.
Sunday, December 5th will be our last day, and then right through the end of February we'll have it closed. And really just throughout the year, Old Barnstable just does so many rounds. We do about 40,000 rounds a year.
Wow.
Really in about 8 or 9 months for the most part. So it takes a pretty good beating throughout the season, and this time of year, especially where the grass isn't growing, just to let people out there, and people are taking divots during the winter. They're not growing back or anything, so it gets even, I don't want to say more beat up, but that kind of being the case, giving it a little bit of a break for a couple months, and during the winter there's really not as much golf activity as we have in season, so pretty much whatever activity there is, the Hyannis Golf Club certainly can absorb, and the Hyannis Golf Club, based on the turf that it is, it's got nice sandy soil. It drains real nice. Actually, we can do a lot more things in the winter at Hyannis. If we have snow, we usually can open quicker because the snow will melt and dissolve into the ground a lot quicker than it would over at Old Barnstable. So, kind of a lot of reasons that go into that. But, first and foremost is really just trying to preserve the Old Barnstable course during the winter when it's really at its slowest.
Yeah, and it's worth it because, that course aesthetically is a very, very beautiful course in my opinion, and it's good to see that you're wanting to keep it that way. Not to say Hyannis isn't, but for all the reasons you described, it makes more sense to keep that one open.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks to Mike and all the other great guests we've had from Barnstable Golf. They've been on the show every week since our debut this past January, and we're already looking forward to the spring. Well, that's all for now. Remember to check out these full-length episodes of Barnstable This Morning in our online archives at town.barnstable.ma.us. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.